Thank you. I appreciate it. You don't have to have me here. So I really do honor that. And then thank you for everyone that's listening and watching and just engaging and witnessing the conversation today. So thank you.
We have heard so many things. I have heard in less than 3 days, a lot of very good things from people that I'm pretty sure that you don't even know. That's a good sign. That's reach.
That's always a good sign.
Yes, it is. Who is Kelvin Witcher?
So who's Kelvin? You know, Kelvin's an interesting thing. I just put this in my group, my New Mind group. So it's funny you even asked me that question. And what I told them was, I said, divinity is the eternal expression of who you are that's timeless, that is changeless throughout every age that we experience. Humanity is the individualization of the part of us that has not fully understood who the divine is. So Calvin is an amalgamation of both of those parts. It's very much I am the divine. I am God, you know, in this particular time, space, geographic, galactic space. And then the other part of, you know, Calvin enjoys red wine and lives here in the United States, enjoys hiking and enjoys a good red wine. It is all of the above. So most people know me by prophet.
That would be one of the questions too.
Yeah, so most people know me by that. And I will say, if I had to sum up Kelvin is an evolutionary experience that I am learning more and more about every day, even myself. So it's interesting getting to know him.
What drives you to do what you do? Because I know it takes a lot of energy, time, and you sacrifice a lot. What drives you to do this?
You know, I love that question. And we were talking about Christianity earlier, and the pastorate. We share some things. You know, we've done the pastorate thing, and mine was Christian, so I'm not sure if that was your background too.
Yes.
And I will use the words of one of the great masters himself, Jesus, Yeshua, where he would talk about having this compelling about him, an unction, if you will. So a lot of what I do is that, you know, part that is unquenchable, that is undefined, unknown, but it's completely determined. It's like I couldn't imagine doing anything else. And in the times that I thought I was going to do something else, or I determined to do something else, all roads kept leading back to this. And eventually, as I'm sure that you know, you eventually just submit and surrender to that and just stop trying to figure it out, stop trying to make it make sense, and just say, this is just what it is. So that's one part. The other part is, outside of the conviction, is I'm a firm believer that our culture, our circumstances really help define who we show up as in that character or that archetype, hands down. So I grew up and I'm very unapologetic about this, you know, grew up in an impoverished community. Racism and discrimination was a thing. So me championing the voice of the voiceless, as I often say, is a part of me. It's unshakable there, which I view as really part of leadership from a divine space. Is you got to be able to defend those that can't fend for themselves. And I know there's a saying in liberation theology that says God is never on the side of the oppressor. God is always for the oppressed. And so part of that is informed by my past, and I have very, very fond memories of, you know, the church experience where things were not always very clear or understood, and things were not always honored from a place of authenticity. And I grew up in an environment that they would punish people that really were authentically being who they were. So it's as a consequence, that was one of the things that also defined how I do what I do right now, which is to say, our community is very, very diverse. I would love to say I'm not shocked by things that get, disclosed, but it's always like, oh, okay, didn't know that about you, but okay. And it's fun because we're never really looking at each other from a space of, oh my God, you believe this, you do this, you're in love with this person, this is your background. It's like, how does that draw you closer to yourself? How does that help you express the divine nature more out in the world? How does that help you in shifting and changing the world? And it's never really a conversation. So I know that came from my background, and it's very unusual for many people, but it's fun. And we use our powers for good, if you will, and everything else is just more of it's a learning experience for everyone. So yeah, that's a couple of the things that have kind of informed the life that is right now, and the rest we just keep on going and understanding a little bit more about this thing we call life. So it's just not that deep. I tell people it's just not that deep.
I don't know why I'm inclined to ask you this question, but I know that people ask this question to themselves. Would you change anything from that past?
Absolutely not. And the answer is the same every single time. Or maybe this way, if I looked at it from a hindsight is 2020, I wouldn't change the circumstances, but I would change the consciousness.
Yes. Yes.
I would change not necessarily what I went through, but how I perceived what I was going through. Could I go back to 6 years old, 12 years old, 25 years old, 30 years old, and be able to say, oh, I'm going through this, have that future insight to say, you come out of this, how do we leverage this experience even the more? Since I'm here, how do I maximize it? Now, if I had to change anything, I would change that. But I would say I try to live in that space now. Like, okay, I'm going through this particular journey now. Like I'm going through this whole thing the last couple of days, which is, this is parts of me that it's not a secret. It's probably a mystery to you, but this is information that people have known for years. This is information that is talked about in our private community and through my friends and family. This is not a new thing. However, I understand for many people, you're just finding out.
Yep.
Welcome to something that's been here for 38 years.
Yes.
And so it's an interesting journey in consciousness and just being aware, like, oh, I posted this earlier to say, you are connecting based upon an assumption and an ideal and an image that is a illusion, or it's a very, very small part of who this is. And that's okay. I just don't want you to be disheartened if you find and when you find out new information. Now, to me, that's a level of consciousness. Now, had this been 20, 30 years ago, I probably would have been very, very in my feelings and emotions. What are people going to think about me? You've got to be a people pleaser. But I was taught that in my religion. You're very, very mindful of, upholding the standard of the gospel.
Be of service.
Be of service. It's not your life. It's the life of, Christ. I grew up in that. And that's not where I am right now. I have a different space of consciousness, which is to say, you cannot truly be liberated. You cannot truly be free until you are truly owning into what is true.
Yeah. Yeah, that is true.
Otherwise, you're just trading one shackle for another. And so it's interesting. Again, that's an evolved level of consciousness. So to the question, would I change the circumstances? No, absolutely not. Would I change how I perceive it, how I leverage it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
I can relate to that. Yeah. I could have not loosened my cool a couple of times, and yeah.
Right.
You have an exquisite, I already told you this, but I want people to know because all the links are going to be in the description. Everything from the website, his Twitter, Instagram, and his exquisite YouTube channel. How important is social media to present this type of content? Because when I got into YouTube, starting doing this for Knowledge from Behind the Veil, it was very fickle. People were very fickle. They were there to criticize, but they were not there to grow.
Yes.
Do you think that has changed?
Absolutely. It's, for any leader that is out there, I understand that people have trouble with change. My whole dynamic with anyone that's going to be powerful, impactful, you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to shift a lot quicker with that. I don't think I'm that old. I think 38 is still pretty young. But I remember when cell phones were just coming into creation. I remember having a Motorola and a Nokia phone, and then it was a BlackBerry. And I remember that the people that had them, you had money if you had a cell phone because they were not cheap. And I remember they were huge. They were huge. So I remember that. I remember when we really didn't have computers and the internet, and you had to go to the library and not to get on the computer, but to read a book. Yeah. Times are changing rapidly. And one of the things, I know some people that still will say things like, I don't want to buy anything online because I don't want them knowing my information.
Too late.
You get a social security check, somebody's got your information.
Yes. Yes.
You work at a job, someone has your social security number, which is how you're getting paid. What's the point? The point is to say, being a visionary, being someone that is, I say, a conduit of spirit, you've got to start looking at what is relevant for this particular time. I believe this is any great spiritual leader, Jesus, Krishna, Buddha, any great god, Shiva, Kali, Odin. It's all about what is relevant and applicable to the people at that particular time and stage. And if you miss that, you're going to miss your opportunity to be great. Right now, the relevancy is the internet. The relevancy is social media. It really has nothing to do with Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube. These platforms come and go.
Yeah.
Facebook may be here for another 6 months, 6 years. We don't know. We thought MySpace was going to be here forever.
Exactly.
And the interesting thing is, MySpace is still in existence. Yahoo and AOL are still in existence. They're just not at the forefront of most of the conversation. So as a leader, I think it behooves everybody to ask, where are people concentrating their attention and how do I leverage that attention? That's just really what it is. And if you're going to be great, again, it's not about, I need a YouTube channel, I need an iTunes podcast. It's really about, how do I spread my message and where are those people? Period. I don't care if it's Facebook, I'll be on Facebook. If it's LinkedIn, I'll be on LinkedIn. If it's advantageous, I don't care if a new platform comes out today called, blue, yellow ribbon. Don't care. Are people there?
Yeah.
I will go there. And I think that's where sometimes people get their focus off. They're focused on the platform, not their message. And that's a problem for most people. It's a point of distraction. So when I tell anyone that's a leader that wants to make impact to get on social media or platforms, absolutely. Maybe focus that energy a little bit more, maybe 2 or 3, maybe 1. That's really a heavy hitter. Mine is Facebook, number 1. 2, my YouTube channel is more of a documentation. It's to get people understanding.
Archives.
It's an archive. It's my TV channel, as it were.
The new TV.
Right. But I don't have 25 million people on my YouTube channel yet. So the engagement piece to me is a little bit different. I like engaging with people. So Facebook allows for that.
Yes, it does.
So again, it goes back to one of those things like know your strengths. Reverend Valerie, we were talking about her earlier. Her strength is
love you, girl.
Love you, love. And I'm going to call you, I promise. Her big strength, at least right now, is YouTube.
Yeah.
She's blowing it up on YouTube. And that's great. I'm trying to get some of her blow up energy. I love Facebook. So yeah, I think it's one of those dynamics is, I would tell anyone, while you're spending time criticizing, condemning, judging a platform, you could have been being great.
Exactly.
Focus your energy on that, not these other things like the social media platform itself, because we all have 24 hours in this day, on this earth, in this space right now. You know, that could change in 100 years. But right now, we have 24 hours. You know, at some point you got to sleep, you have to eat, you have to do a lot of natural things like wash clothes. You don't have the energy and luxury to be focused on what Facebook is or is not doing. Like, do you want to be great or not?
Exactly.
Period. And go. So my thing is just go do it.
Or if you still need to do, this is why I am laughing, because it's perfect. This is maybe why you call the prophet. This is how I created this, between doing the laundry, taking care of the house, doing my other job. Every single free moment that I had, even though I don't sleep, is creating the vision, not visualizing. That time has passed. Action. And that's why I love about your message. It's beautiful the way you create the atmosphere and the presence of spirit in every single video. But at the same time, you are that person that, I call it the, if you were a Pokemon, you would be the evolution of the classical message in the church, and the prosperity spell without the negative connotations. Mm-hmm. That power talk. And we need that. There's a lot of defeated people that think that they cannot take care of themselves and take care of their family. And they have all these geniuses ideas, and they think, who the hell is going to care about that? And like in one of your videos, maybe we're missing that person that is curing cancer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And thank you for expressing that too, because that is a big presence, the presence of the spirit, the power that you came here to do, and then pursuing that unapologetically. Yes. That's it. I'm very practical, even in the supernatural space that I work in. And it's all about like helping people to perceive it in a different way. Like we, talking about relevancy, like we just had the Super Bowl issues, happening with, our wonderful halftime show. And one of the things I was telling people, I said, you guys have the wrong focus. Who cares who did the concert and the halftime show? And while we're spending time, maybe say it's the negative, how about we celebrate that a woman's up there? How about we celebrate that, people of color are up there? How about we celebrate that 40 years ago, this wouldn't have happened? Shoot, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have happened. How about we celebrate that? How about we look at it from a dynamic of, can that be you, if you want it to be you in the next few years? Like, I saw it was Demi Lovato. I don't know if anybody knows Demi Lovato. She's a singer. I know a little bit about her, but not much. I know that it was, about 10 years ago when this happened, she put it on her, I think it was Twitter or somewhere on one of her social media platforms. She says, one day I'm going to sing the national anthem at a Super Bowl. Well, that came true 10 years later. But here's the power of that. You've got to be able to perceive where you're going to be in the future and unapologetically profess that and walk in your power like Demi Lovato for 10 years until it manifests. You don't have the luxury to sit here and worry about what people think of you, how people are going to perceive it, because people are going to like it or love it either way. And the people that love you and are committed to that, and the people that are here for the journey of you, they're fine. Are they going to have a few shock moments? Sure. Are they going to have a few moments that they're like, ooh, okay, that's interesting? Yes. But I would tell you, one of the things I had to ultimately learn, and this is definitely from a Christian space, is not everyone is going to accept you. And it's cute to say this with Jesus and he's crucified, but the crucifixion of Jesus is a classic example of people not accepting you.
Yep.
And we never talked about it from that space. We talked about it from a place of sacrifice, but that level of power that came through because somebody else did not agree on the message.
Nobody's a prophet in their own land.
Nobody, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that sometimes gets lost. Like, okay, you're going to be great, but you're going to also have great tribulation against you. And if you don't learn to take up your cross and own that power, you're a witch, you're a magician, you're, the prophet, you're whatever it is, a sage, you're a guru. I don't care what term it is. I don't get caught up in terms and titles and people's expression. If that's you, if that's your archetype, own it.
That was my next question, because one of your fans, she asked me, Derry, this is for you. She, because I put on the forum, I am interviewing Mr. Kelvin Witcher, the prophet. Anyone wants to ask any questions, and these were the questions came in. And she asked, why don't you consider yourself, and I'm going to say it exactly as she wrote it.
Please.
Why is it that you are not a pastor? You were talking about archetypes. She wants to know if you align so much with certain pagan practices and certain pagan beliefs, that how come you don't consider yourself a witch?
That's a great question. I love that. Because I've gotten that often.
Me too.
It's a very
like my answer.
Because I'm probably going to say something that someone's going to not like in a few moments. I always tell people, like, listen, if you haven't had something to offend you, wait 5 minutes. It's probably going to happen. Just give it time. One, I'm going to answer this from a couple of different levels. One, the witch community is an extremely autonomous community. They're completely solitary for the most part. Now, I have dear friends, like Lisa, she has her own coven and community. I have good friends, that have Hex Fest, and they are powerful, high priests, shout out to Christian and Brian. Not talking about people that are actually building a infrastructure around the practice and the craft. Most of the witch community, sorry, but it's true, they're too autonomous for me. It's true power comes from a collective joining of forces. You can't even work in the spirit world without collaboration with some deity in spirit. So to me, it's always unusual, always weird when I hear a witch that is a solitary practitioner. I can't compute that in my head, because there's nothing that is solitary about the space of magic. We are all collaborating and connecting, whether it's elements, whether it's the entity, whether it's a grimoire, some kind of expression of someone else's documentation. It's all based upon collaboration and building upon the next. So when I hear people that isolate themselves, it's always a red flag for me. So if I had to say why I don't, that would be one. It just doesn't make sense to me. So two, I don't feel spirit ever called me, or I've been convicted to own the title of witch, though I am one. Other people have called me that.
That is
so it's interesting with me. It's like I was talking about this with my community New Mind this week about Jesus, and I think it was John the 16th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. And oh no, not John the 16th chapter. It was another chapter. And Jesus looks around at his disciples and he asks them, "Whom do men say that I am?" And some say John the Baptist, some say Elijah, some say Jeremiah or one of the prophets, according to the scriptures. Jesus never denies or denounces what they say and what they are thinking about him, at least according to scriptures. Now, he may have said something behind closed doors, but we weren't there. According to the scriptures, he never says, "I am not Elijah. I am not one of the prophets that's come back from the dead." He never says that. He moves on to the next evolution of the conversation. He says, "Who do you say that I am?" Now, it's funny because there's several conversations happening at the same time. Jesus actually starts that conversation with announcing he is the Son of Man. He actually says, "Whom do men say that the Son of Man is?" So he already says, "I'm the Son of Man." Then the disciples say, "Well, these are what all the people are saying who you are, which is not the Son of Man." Then Jesus comes back and says, "Well, who do you say that I am? Because I'm saying I'm one thing. they're saying I'm another thing. Now, who do you say that I am? Then Simon Peter comes and says, thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus shifts from Son of Man to Son of God based upon the expression of those that were committed to him. To me, that is my journey. I am calling myself prophet. I am calling myself the conduit of spirit. I also am not denying if you call me witch or magician or shaman. Arguably, I do healing, shaman. Arguably, I do magic, and there are manifestations, witch. I have a community, call me high priest. I'm not denying that, although I may not be calling myself that. And when people discern who I am as the Son of God, as the form of, this particular Christ incarnate, as that particular deity, my conversation shifts to say, flesh and blood did not reveal that to you, but it was spirit. And those are the community of people I talk to. So it's always very interesting. It's like, quite honestly, you only want me on that label so it makes you comfortable, not because you've discerned the power that I came here on the earth to do. And I'm just not concerned at entertaining that conversation.
I know.
I arguably fit into a lot of worlds. I can go into a Christian church and be just fine and worship with them and pray with them as much as I can go to the Hindu temple, which is 5 miles down the road. I've studied and I was a member of a synagogue in Tennessee. Totally enjoy that as much as I can be in a witch's circle doing magic. To me, that's not a limitation, that's a leveraging of power.
Amen. Amen. Because sometimes when we go into these type of circles, we only encounter one face of the coin. And the majority that leads and sometimes it's the Anglo-Saxon Wiccans or something from the Alexandrians or something from that vein of, Aleister Crowley and, the Golden Dawn. And then we forget that there are other parts of the world where witchcraft is also practiced. I studied Lukumi and voodoo. So that is very, 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 very inside my psyche. Even though that I run away from it, I know what goes around comes around. So, and I was told when I was 13, you don't believe in anything, but you will believe in everything, in spirit. And when you say that, and I see you in this, like you said, this whole balance of power, because you get from this, get from that. And I think that's amazing, because when you encapsulate yourself in one belief, or like you said in one of your videos, when you don't study, when you expand your mind. And I love the way that you have, I was fascinating. I met the Dalai Lama in 87 in Puerto Rico, in 97. And it changed my life in many ways, because I was only on the church. I was doing the church thing. And I said, there is more to this. There is more to Santeria. There is more to voodoo. There is more to Lukumi. There is more to this. And people forget that we're not a hub, that the world, even though it's tiny, there are 7 billion people here and they all practice something different, but from the same root. And I love the way that you describe that root, and everybody can understand you.
Thank you.
Everybody can understand you.
And I tell people, it's like, to me, which I love that question. So it's not even about the person that's asking the question. I really love the questions. I always tell people, it's like, what speaks to you? What is your soul trying to articulate here? Part of my root is African, so I love hoodoo and voodoo, and I love the Santeria, and I love that very, tribal, earthen, raw energy. So to me, it's interesting when someone says black magic or they say chaos magic. To me, I understand it, but to me, I'm like, well, raw, authentic African voodoo and hoodoo it's chaotic, but
chaotic.
Part of your job of the magician is to order that, to structure that.
Harness it.
It's to harness it. So it's always very interesting with me when people talk, it's like, rather than, because this happens a lot. I mean, I will say every spiritual community, because I have this conversation with everyone, every industry. The time that people spend on trying to figure out why people do this, not do this, why they go by this, you could have spent that time going deeper in your practice. It's like me going up to the Christian pastor saying, why are you being called pastor, not an evangelist? He doesn't care. She doesn't mind. They're helping people. Who cares? And are you going to join that church? Probably not. So to me, that's a fruitless conversation that I don't, like people talk about Pastor Joel Osteen. I like Pastor Joel Osteen. I've been in his church, before. He's doing great work. Totally Christian. And that's fine. I'm also not trying to be a member. And I can still cheer him on from the sidelines and say, you go, my friend.
I love the way that he uses psychology and everyday things to actually articulate a lesson. And you do that too. And that is very rare, because when you have a story, when you have a narrative, when you are a good storyteller, you can get away with talking about things that even if people feel a little, apprehensive, they're willing to listen. Need more people like that.
Right.
Need more people like that. And that is a huge blessing. Wow. This is going to be a loaded question, but
Let's do it.
It is really important for the community, and I'm pretty sure it is important for you. Do you see any consensus being made to people changing their minds from religion to spirituality or vice versa?
Here's my simple answer. I see that most people don't actually know what they believe. So this becomes a confusing conversation.
Yes.
And here's why I say that. And this is actually a really good dovetail from the last question. To me, spirituality and religion are one and the same experience. To me, spirituality is the core, religion is the container. And I say this all the time. I think it's always weird when people say I'm spiritual but not religious, and people say that I'm religious, not spiritual. And to me, I'm like, you realize, one, your religion is based upon a spiritual principle and or practices. And the first time that you structure your spiritual principles and or practice, it goes into a religion. Now, we can argue whether you have a book or not. We can argue if you have a prophet that is leading the religion. But I would argue that you may not have a religion that was created by an external prophet, but if it's your principles and your practice and your structure, you then are the prophet of your own religion. It's one and the same experience. To me, even like someone that says, oh, I'm a solitary practitioner, I'm a kitchen witch or whatever, you have a practice. Your practice of getting herbs, my altar's over here, sanctifying your altar, preparing, the elements and everything is literally no different than Catholics having communion and the Eucharist. I don't see you doing high magic and being enrolled in your thing and your incense any different than the Catholic priest and them being in their robes and ceremony. It's literally the same process. You're teaching your coven no different than Pastor Joel Osteen is on a TV teaching his coven. He just calls his coven a church. And it's interesting when I hear people talk about that. I'm like, listen, you have a religion. It may not be in your consciousness structured as one. You may not have a 501c3. You might not have an LLC, but you have a religion. There's a structure by which what you do. To me, spirituality is just the thing driving it. But the car is still the religion. Call it Wicca. Call it, the Golden Dawn. Call it the Thelema. Call it, dealing with the Enochian spirit. Whatever you want to call it. It's the religion. Call it yoga. Yoga's a religion, I don't care. It's still a structure.
And difficult.
It's difficult, which is why I don't do it. And so to me, here's how I look at it. I really look at it as Spirituality is, again, is the transformative part of the work. The theme of it is the religion. That's all a religion is to me. Like, the religion is just how we house it. How do we contain it? I think that's all labels are. Labels are, in a sense, you saying this is my religion. When you say I'm a witch, you're saying my religion is that of the witch. When you say I'm a shaman, my religion is that of the shaman. Everything that flows underneath that, to me, is the spiritual essence of what you're doing. So that's why I always say, like, okay, you don't have a religion. Yes, you do. You call yourself a witch. You're going by Wiccan principles. You are looking at grimoires and you're reading content from other sages and mages. Yes, you are in a religion. However way you want to slice it. Even if you say, I'm a solitary practitioner, here's the interesting thing. No different than people say, I'm a non-denominational church. I'm a life.
They're putting in. Yeah, it's true.
It's the same way. I'm a life coach. I don't have a certification. You are a non-denominational life coach. You are a non-denominational witch. But you're just saying, I trust my structure over somebody else's structure. And I'm okay if you say that, because that's honest. But the reality is, I even call BS on that, because none of us are out here in these magical streets conjuring new information. Even King Solomon said it best, who's a very prominent figure in magic. There is nothing new under the sun.
Exactly. That was the first thing that came to mind. And there it is. There is nothing new under the sun.
Nothing of this is new. It's just not. So, and again, that doesn't make it less powerful. It doesn't make it less authentic. It just, I've said this before, like, we're all the mosaic of the masters that came before us. And we honor that. I don't have a problem with the Bible. I don't have a problem with Christians. I think that's stupid for people that are in a lot of spaces of magic to do that. Like, well, a lot of your content you get from the Hebraic scriptures or the Kabbalic text. Right. I think it's weird for you not to like the Bible, unless you're not studying.
I have called the Bible one of the biggest, for people that understand that language, one of the biggest grimoires. It's full of spells, examples of divination, prophecy, over and over again in the Old and the New Testament. And the magic, that the miracles of Jesus. And if you go even further to Apocrypha, there is no denying that one feeds from the other. And we have to accept that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I would say that, to me, that's the beauty of it. It's to say, how is the divine, how is God choosing to manifest itself through my human expression? And everything else is just, okay, like, you don't call it the Holy Spirit, you call it the Orinda, in the West African tradition. Okay, that's great. To me, it's the same thing. You don't call it the Holy Spirit. To the yogis, you call it the breath. Semantics on titles.
I know.
Like, this is why I said, like, do you actually understand the essence of what you're saying? I don't care what you call it. Call it magic, call it Holy Spirit, call it, gut, call it enlightenment, consciousness. I don't care.
Bob.
I ask, love, does it work? And I think this is where I guess the rubber meets the road, and where sometimes people have a friction with me, because I'll question them. I'll say, that's cute, you're spending time arguing the title, but can you make that work?
Ooh.
Call it whatever you want to. I don't care if you call it Pokemon instead of Jesus. Yep. Is Pokemon helping you to cure cancer? Is Pokemon helping you to manifest money in your business? Is Pokemon making you feel peace in your challenging times? I don't give a crap what you call it. What I do care about is the time and energy you spend condemning for a power that you don't even have. No, it's funny. That's arguably where any kind of critical conversations come with me. I always go back to that. Like, can you make that work? I don't care if you have a problem with me being a prophet. I'm just going to ask you, show me your miracles.
Oh, I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that. Show me your miracles.
Yeah.
What do you say to people that, or I don't know if they have, or if they, that would tell you that spirituality and being financially stable and financially sound, it's not compatible? That really, really, because that's how people stay in states of poverty and stuck. What do you say to those people that tell you that?
I say that you're not making money. That's it's so interesting, but it's so true. I've never heard a wealthy person say that. I've heard people without money say that, but I've never heard a person with wealth and money say that. One. Two, I've never heard anyone that is fully engaged in their calling unapologetically say that either. People that are working their passion as a hobby will say that. But when you tap into the level of money that I make is in correspondence with the level of impact I make, you will not say that. It's even like YouTube. I can be on YouTube, and spread my message. Yes. And when you understand I can put $20 towards advertising and get 15 more followers to help change their life, you'll start to realize that money is a tool to transform people's life.
Yep.
Do people use money for negative or other harmful gains? Sure, but so did Girl Scouts. And what? And I would say that's where I tell people, your focus is off. Next, all of us are doing something because of money. Everybody that says you shouldn't care about money is working a full-time job to get a paycheck in 2 weeks while they tell me not be concerned about money. You're doing something because of money.
Yeah.
It's going to go into a jealousy thing, which is you're mad that the one practitioner is making $100 an hour and you're doing everything for free or only being able to charge 10. So rather than you looking and saying, oh my gosh, I would love to learn more about the Witch's Haven. I would love to know how you built the platform. I would love to learn from you and have you be my mentor and figure out how to go from this point to this point. You're spending the energy critiquing. To me, it's like, you're not serious about your craft. You're not serious about your calling if you spend energy doing that. I just can't take you seriously. Because I'm over here in my life with everyone and with my people, and we're saying, great, we need to level up. One of my friends, Shamika, she's doing $100K a month. I'm over here in my life like, whoa, I need to level up. Congratulations for her. I know the impact she's making. She's a woman of faith. She's also Christian. She's doing an excellent job. And I also know her story of how she was not like that several years ago. She is a better representation for her God, who is Jesus, than she ever was, being poor. She's not said that, at least from what I've heard, but I would say that for her. And I don't think she would deny the truth of that statement. If you're going to be impactful for your deity, for your calling, you're going to have to learn to have a very healthy relationship when it comes to money.
Yeah.
You just are. And until you resolve that dynamic, you're not going to resolve your calling here and your mission here on the planet. I'm not saying that you need to be making $100,000 a year. It may be $50,000 a year. I'm not saying you need a mansion. You may be fine with a 2-3 bedroom house. It's really not about, I think when people hear wealth and prosperity, they have maybe negative patterns based upon other experiences they have seen. The prosperity gospel and the Christian side of things, the business or life coaching industries. But the reality is you're looking at it's an unfair observation. Here's why because yes, I could see it. Okay, you see the prosperity gospel and TBN and all these, but you also don't see the behind the scenes of what's actually occurring. Great example with me. It's a little bit off topic, but it's still on topic. I still do tithes and offerings. I still, to this day, will say you need to sow a seed for the harvest that you're looking to occur. Now, here's the interesting thing about this. I only say that because I see it work.
Yeah.
I have a thing about my life, call it integrity or call it just me not wasting time. Like if I don't talk about it, I don't think it's valuable. But if I do talk about it, it's because of results. Like literally this past week and a half, I launched a new course. It wasn't necessarily on money, but it was on business. And I said the same thing that I say every time when I launch a course. I do not launch it because I'm bored. I launch it because it is a spiritual directive. And like clockwork, when I launch a course, people have mystery money showing up out of nowhere. It happens every single time. They get clients from nowhere. They have money show up in PayPal or their bank account. It literally happens all the time. And so I tell people, listen, buy the course for $97. Be open to the possibility of things shifting in your life. Now, am I guaranteeing it? There is a level of guarantee of your life shifting. Now, how it shifts, I don't know. One of our people that went through it, she's also a Neumology member. She went through the Code to Soul Masterclass. She messaged me yesterday. Since that class happened, which was last Friday, it is what now, 4 days from now, that time, she's made $10,000 and counting. Someone else made $500 the day they signed up for my Activating Abundance class. Didn't even get to the video. Signed up an hour later, had a client from like years ago that she's not talked to. All of a sudden messaged her saying, I want a session, paid her $500. That was 2 instances. I had someone else, you may know her. She's doing a conference. She also signed up to the Code to Soul. Ended up, I think it was like $3,000, almost $4,000 in ticket sales for her event. Had no plans for it. Someone else that signed up for the course literally messaged me saying, I don't get paid till Friday, where the course is. This was like on a Wednesday. She signed up. She said she had a dream about me that Wednesday night. She signed up on Thursday. Friday, she ended up getting a real estate deal for almost $3,000. I could keep going. That's 3 examples right there from a $97 course. So I actually understand when I have seen, and I still see, like a preacher that gets on TV and says, sow a seed of $100. You know what? On the outside, I know how it looks. But on the inside of the camp, I'm like, you don't realize the level of miracles that are happening there. To me, you giving $100 is literally no different than doing a sacrifice to a God. It is no different than us spending time in circle and saying, you know, Hakate, here are some pomegranates. Here is, you know, some water if it's, you know, say expedite. To me, it's literally the same thing. Because and this is why people, let me say it this way. Here's how I tend to call BS on people actually practicing their craft. Because here's the reality. You're not giving pomegranates and bread and fruits and vegetables and wine to a deity. You're giving them money.
Yep.
It costs $15 for that bottle of wine. That pomegranate costs $2.56. If I add up how much it costs to do this particular ceremony, I am probably at $500. Now,
that's true.
Newbie magicians don't think like that. All of what you're doing, given to a god, is you're giving them the expression of money, asking for something in return. So this whole conversation about money, I don't think people really get it. And
the way that I see it, this is a talented person that took years of his life experience and compacted in a way that you can understand it. And taking the time out of his life to teach you how to get out of the run that you get yourself into. And that is valuable.
Absolutely.
That is valuable and needs to be honored.
Absolutely. And I would say the same thing with you, like any leader that is giving you instruction, you got to take it. Like if it works, work it. And again, I think it's an issue of misguided focus. It's like, do you want the thing that they're saying is available for you? Or do you not? That's really the only question I have. There are times I still will say, okay, boom, sowing a seed. I don't care. Pastor Benny Hinn, Pastor Joel Osteen, some coven, I don't care. I'm not focused on necessarily it's $100 or $10 or $20. I'm focused on, I am using this as an exercise of my faith. I am using this as a sacrifice to the greater deity that is spirit. That's my only focus. On occasion, I'm concerned with maybe the environment that it goes into, but honestly, not mostly, not really. Now, it's funny because on the Christian side, they used to teach that a lot, like beware of the environment you sow into. Now, I don't really process it that way because I've learned that there are sometimes the Spirit, God, asks you to do things that have nothing to do with that other person.
Yeah.
Go talk to that person, give that person a word. I don't care if that person is a murderer. I don't care if that person is, dealing in domestic. I don't care if that person is a bad person. And the reality is, we don't know everything about people.
Yeah, that is true.
So I've learned to not use what I know as a condition for me obeying. To me, it's not even a factor. It's literally like, what is Spirit saying? Do I see this as a next part of the journey for my own breakthrough? And that's it. It's a point of obedience. Just do it. So I don't question the vessel that it's going into. Like that's their responsibility, not mine. It's so interesting because when you look at a lot of these different industries, there's more similarities than there are differences. And I know everyone says that in their own different ways. Like, it's literally no different. We express it different. We call it different things. It's literally the same process. What I did as a pastor, as a youth president in the Christian church with the scriptures is literally no different than what I'm doing now.
Yep.
Maybe by a different name, maybe with a different level of tenacity and conviction, sure. But how I was talking and believing and working then is no different now. I'm just probably a little bit more bold about it. I'm a lot more powerful in it. But the interesting thing is, to your credit, and I think anyone that's a master in this space is, we're doing the work of it.
Yeah.
I'm constantly processing how I do things, why I do things. Does that work? I have an obsession with power because I think that there is a lack of it in the world. Me being more powerful, me being a more powerful healer only benefits those that need healing. So to me, that's never an issue. Me being more powerful as a manifester only helps those that need a greater manifestation. The ends justifies the means, and it's for the benefit of all, to use a Buddhist term. Yeah, I think we have a focus issue with a lot of people.
I was thinking this morning about the parable of the talents. And there is a lot of people that have so many incredible talents to make money, have the best life they could be, to have their spiritual balance, check balanced. And they're afraid. What do you think they're afraid of? To bury those they prefer to bury their talents so nobody knows. And then when you ask them, but what are you doing with what God gave you or spirit? Listen.
You know what? I think that people are afraid of honesty. If I had to break it down. So when I hear people that say that they're, to use the parable of the scriptures, that they're hiding their talents, to me, it's an honesty issue. You're not being honest about what you can do or what you can't do. You're not being honest of the necessity of what you're here to do. And you're not honest about the real reason why you're not doing it. So I'd rather people say, instead of them saying, whatever they say, just to say, listen, I'm afraid, I'm intimidated. Other people are better at that than me. I feel that spirit, I'm getting too old for spirit to use. I feel like I have missed my opportunity. No, that would be a true statement. We can deal with truth and we can deal with honesty. But the interesting thing is, you can't be afraid of something you've never had partnership with. How are you afraid of a power that you have never obtained?
I know.
It's an impossibility. How are you afraid of healing the sick when you've never done it? How are you afraid of walking on water? You've never done it. How are you afraid of manifesting money? You've never done it. What you are afraid of is stepping out on the water and sinking. You're afraid of looking stupid. You're afraid of telling people that you're a shaman without being able to heal. You're afraid of saying you're a prophet without the ability to see the future. You're afraid of being able to say I'm a psychic without understanding the clarity of a present. That's what you're afraid of. So rather than you going deep and being a master in the craft and studying and learning, you would rather say as an excuse, I'm afraid. No, that's just unfortunately very truthful. You may have had one experience that caused you to not walk down that path again. You did it when you were younger and you got criticized. But here's the reality. Anything that you can find to distract yourself from your passion and your power, you're not that convicted by it.
Yep.
And that's just the reality of it. If Netflix can distract you from studying your craft, Netflix is your God and you should worship it continually with your subscription. And do I feel bad for you? No, I do not. Do I have a sad story to tell you, to motivate you and to encourage you? No, go see Les Brown. I am telling you, you're making decisions every single day to not own into a power that is fully available to you. It's, again, it's not even magic or miracle at this point. It's simply your momentum to be convicted and to go towards it. It really is. Like I say this all the time when it comes to wealth and finances. You are surrounded around millionaires and multi-six-figure earners and people that have businesses. You're surrounded by the internet and Google. There's no reason why you should not be successful unless you don't want to be. I don't buy the excuse. You need to say, I don't want to be. You should say, I don't care about money. You should say, I want somebody else to do it for me. That's what you really need to say. I want someone to give it to me. I want to be able to live in a house and not work. You need to say that because that's actually honest. I want clients to message me and say they're going to pay me $10,000 versus me getting online saying my fee is $10,000. You need to be honest and say that. I want Oprah to call me because Spirit, my angel's going to give her a dream in the middle of the night. And yeah, you rather that happen, which is probably not going to happen, versus you being a person worthy enough to get Oprah's attention.
Ooh.
But when I say you need to own up to being a person that stops Oprah in her tracks that says, oh my God, I got to pay attention. You don't want to hear that, but you want to hope, wish, and pray that somehow Oprah's going to eat pizza on the right night and have a pizza dream and conjure up your name, and Spirit's going to give her your phone number and your email address. It ain't going to happen, boo. It's just not going to happen.
This ain't Super Soul Sunday.
This is like Super Honest Sunday. It's like,
yes.
You gotta just. And so back to when I talk about wealth, I tell people, like, listen, you're surrounded by solutions.
Yes.
You are in an abundance of answers. And if prosperity, if healing, if power is on your street, is in your neighborhood. If you choose to not walk outside and stop the car from driving and to get information that has nothing to, prosperity is not the evil person.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's the fear. There is this fear. And I know that everything that you just said is just right because you went through every single stage. For me, from when I was 17 up until now, I ran away from the practice of my family between Santeria and Spiritism, Allan Kardec branch.
Ooh, yes.
And I was so afraid of it because there were expectations. So then I was told, no, that's bad. I have to go deep inside the church. And I got lost in it. I was looking for somebody else's truth. This guy's in his mind. And the difference between that and finding myself doing this, it's the results. And you're absolutely right. When spirit or whatever is driving you tells you it's time, and you have to act now. If you don't act now, you're going to wonder the rest of your life, be wondering the rest of your life, what if? And I didn't want that to happen to me. I didn't want that to happen to me. I got too many regrets to have add that one on the list. And when, I don't know, I do know, you know, the flow, when they say that when you enter the flow, when you're in flow, the way the athletes are, when you are inspired, not motivated, when you're inspired, that flow starts.
You got to remove the distractions. People are going to say something either way. I don't care who you are. People don't like Mother Teresa.
I know.
People, I mean, we can name all kinds. Every person that's had some level of leadership or prominence at some level, there is someone that does not like them. And you're going to have to come to some consensus with your own consciousness to say, are you going to sit here and keep, and honestly, I have no other way to say it. It's like, you're just trying to find another excuse to articulate, again, you don't really care about your calling. And you need to say that, because you'd rather spend time worried about, and somebody says something about me and they blah, 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 blah. Listen, same thing with J-Lo. J-Lo and Shakira, you know, bless their hearts. They are not thinking about anybody complaining about them. They're getting back in their private jets, going back to their multi-million-dollar homes with their families, and they're going to they have already raked in their money from the NFL Super Bowl. And from this experience, they will blow up even more. And good for them. And great for the cultures surrounding them, the Hispanic, Latino cultures, you know, and the other minorities out. You know what? Great. And the women that they were representing and empowering. They're not thinking about Nancy from Nebraska that didn't like that, you know, J-Lo's 50 and looks that great. J-Lo is not entertaining those people. And the people that are in J-Lo's community aren't caring about Nancy from Nebraska. And that's what people need to just really own it too. You don't really care about what you keep saying that you care about. You're not committed to it. You're finding significance in entertaining that stupid conversation. It's just not. And the people that are actually doing something with their life just don't care about that.
Because those that know don't say, and those that say don't know.
Absolutely. Say it again for the people in the back.
Those that know don't say anything, and those that say anything, they don't know. They have no idea. And very few people understand what that means.
Right. Here's the funny thing, even in spirituality, even in this space, if I say God is love, some crackerjack is going to say, well, God is not just love. God is all things. God is even hate. And if I say God is hate, well, what do you mean? God cannot just be hate. God is this loving energy. We don't need more hate in the world. We need love. Listen, 3 different perspectives, 3 different conversations. Arguably, I would agree with all of them and don't care about any of them. But some joker is going to sit here and spend 10 hours and 25,000 conversations arguing what somebody else doesn't like about what they said. You know, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Okay. And what am I supposed to do with that? Because you trying to condemn me while you're trying to convert me into your community may not be the best discipleship effort, I'm thinking. So do you want me to join you, or is this simply a condemnation that I'm not with you? We need to define what this conversation is really about. And then I can help appropriately engage the conversation, because if it's a matter of condemnation, let's fight it out. And let's just say that's what it is. It's a fight. But let's not say this is discipleship.
I know. That is something that I try, and everybody that knows me, yes, I was a pastor. Yes, I even taught occultism for 5 years, a long time ago. But I am an agnostic. I don't know everything. The only thing that I know is that I don't know nothing. That is the only thing that I know. Everything that passes through me, and that happens when I do the readings, I said it wasn't me. So I cannot claim a responsibility to whatever. But what do you say to people that have those conflicts of faith, or are wounded by their institutions of worship, and then they put themselves in a little hell that they're the only person that they're hurting is themselves. I know because I was there. I was there.
When people have a conflict of their faith, and kind of how do they go about that? You know, here's the interesting thing, and it's often one of the hard conversations I have with people, but it's often one of the most transformative ones. Because again, I've been there too. You know, same thing. Came out, well, was outed, which is different, and kind of lost everything. But again, I was already controversial anyway on the Christian side of things, even before I was a minister, because I was always like, that don't quite make sense. Like, I know you say they shouldn't practice divination, but Joseph has a diviner's cup.
Yep.
And I don't help it make sense for me. Like, I'm not criticizing it, and I'm actually not judging it. I'm seeking understanding. It's like today, I found out Rush Limbaugh has advanced cancer. Well, if Rush Limbaugh were gay, you would say that's a judgment from God. So he got the same disease and illness. Is also a condemnation from God? Because every time there's an earthquake, Pat Robertson said it's because of the gays. I don't know. Y'all got to help me understand. So back to consistent inconsistencies.
Consistent inconsistency.
Consistent inconsistencies. I grew up, again, in the Christian faith too. And I remember seeing people that were in the church, had problems, had issues, how the church responded to them. You found out that the pastor had a girlfriend, how the church responded. And so it was interesting when it happened to me. I had to kind of come to an understanding of, why are you kind of surprised? Because outside of the book, you know the people. It was one of those hard things you have to really wrap your head around and say, oh, I don't know why I'm surprised that also happened to me, because I saw it happen to a whole bunch of people. I just am now in the crossfire of that same conversation. So part of that is kind of also identifying this is the creed, but this is also the community that we're in. Yeah. People can love and like all day long. Love and like people are also very vicious. You need to understand that it's not all about the creed, it's also about your community. Love and like people will light you on fire very quickly.
Oh yeah.
Just watch them. And now, is that a bad thing? I think it's just a conscious thing. I think people are people. I think we all have our conditions, as it were. I think we all have our convictions, as they are. And owning into the truth of what that is just makes it a lot easier. Now, when it comes to someone using their creed as a way of supporting their character, then I'll have a different conversation with them. Because listen, you need to own into you are a mean person. You need to own into you are racist.
Yes.
That don't have anything to do with God. I'm not mad at Jesus. I'm cool with Jesus. I know a whole lot of people, witches that love Jesus. It ain't about Jesus, and it's not about the Bible. Could care less about that, as ripped up and put back together as it is. I'm talking about you. Your pastor is a mean person. That has nothing to do with Christianity. He just happens to be teaching from a book that I also say too, it's not a Christian book. It's a book by the Hebrews for the Hebrew people about Hebrew life. Y'all came later and stole it and put your name on it. It ain't your book. And anybody that studies the Jewish culture, and they're arguably in that creed, will say the same thing. I'm not Jewish in that sense, but it's true. People are people. And so kind of on the next level to that, when it comes down to kind of being hurt, people, all of us, I had to do it. I think everyone needs to eventually get to this point if they're going to have a healthy life. You're going to have to separate the creed and the content of really rich material, really rich philosophy, really rich insights and stories from people are jerks. You got kicked out of your church. Great. Join the group, because a lot of us did. Somebody said something they didn't like. Okay, yeah, I get that. I mean, I remember before I became the minister of music at my home church, the previous minister of music, the piano player, he got kicked out for having a baby out of wedlock. Well, how many pastors have had mystery kids floating around in the world? I think it's crazy now, but at the time, they're like, you had a baby and she's not your wife and you're a leader in the church. You cannot be playing piano. You can still come to church, but you cannot play piano. And he literally had to come up to the church and apologize for it. No, he didn't come back, of course. And he had to apologize for it and explain why he was no longer the piano player. And literally, that's how I ended up coming into position with me being the piano player. I was like, listen, I'm too crazy for y'all to do that to me. So I'm cool, but just, y'all not gonna get me up in church like that. Just, I don't mind understanding what the rules are. I don't even mind if you say you're not in the crowd. I'm okay with that. There's a lot of people that, I'm not invited to the party. It's cool. As long as we understand where everybody is. So I think that's what people have to eventually go down to. Like, listen, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Say things as they are. Be honest. Those people sucked. People are cruel. The same people that, condemned your little girl are the same people that have their daughter or son that they're hiding a secret about. And if the shoe were on the other foot, they would be doing the exact same. Let me rephrase. The majority of people would do the exact same thing. There are a handful of parents that would say, that the Bible says this, you're sinning, and kick you out of the house. But honestly, that's a small majority. Majority of people are going to say, listen, you're not going to say that to my son or daughter, even if they're driving me crazy. It's still my child.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell all the time, I say, listen, you know what? Your conviction for your creed is very cute until you hit a challenge. So when you hit a challenge, let's revisit this conversation and see if you actually believe what you say. Because I'm telling you, I have found very few people, very few, at least on that side of the religious conversation, that you don't believe that, because when this happened to you, you totally changed your conversation.
And almost always that's the case.
Almost always is the case.
Yep. Tell us about your projects, because I was, when I came into your presence in Facebook, I saw that you had a project last week, and I said, oh my God, I got into the middle of something. Tell us about your upcoming projects or anything that you have right now.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I will say I'm always doing, I'm again, so multifaceted, which I love. And most of the people that I kind of gather around me tend to be also multi-passionate and have a lot going on, it keeps us busy and keeps things exciting. So it's good. So I'm still doing my consulting, advising for entrepreneurs and business owners, really helping them to be filthy, stinking rich so they can continue to positively impact the world. And we do that unapologetically.
Unapologetically.
The main passion point, the main life work is Neumology, which is the collective consciousness of beliefs, my ideas on the divine. How does that get applied to our everyday life? It's kind of a mind dump of what has been, is, and will be in the life of prophet. So that's kind of what's going on. So there will be a book coming out very, very soon. So stay tuned to that. Join the email list if you want to stay in tune. And then the other part of that is my more private community. We call it New Mind, which is really focused on the teachings that are going to be in the book coming up. I really disseminate that all in a group. So it's really about me getting that content out there, have a healthy level of mentorship in there, and leaders that are really understanding at a different degree what they're here to do and to really own into it. So it allows for me to speak not just what Spirit is saying to me and get it in a really safe container, but it also allows for me to speak into the lives of other, powerful, men and women that are, arguably really changing the world in their own covens and communities and sects of the world. And so that's, I would say, the biggest things of what's happening right now on the spiritual aspect of things. So, yeah.
And this is why you're here, because this is exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to archive people that have something real to say, that it's not scripted, not sometimes we find gurus, or not prophets, I'm going to use the word guru for a very specific reason, that actually they go for a weekend to Peru, and then they have ayahuasca and they think that they met God, and all of a sudden they grow their beards and they start walking half naked. The sense of responsibility that as spiritual leaders is great. How do you not buckle under all that pressure?
You know, this is that's a very simple question, a simple answer as well, which is when you fully understand, and I think understanding is actually greater than knowing. Understanding is based upon years of in-depth working and seeing and observing and experiencing. When you finally get to a place of understanding why you are here, or as the Master Jesus would have said, for this reason came I into the world, you stop trying to apologize for that. You realize that it is not a little ayahuasca ceremony and now you get a white robe and you get some, turquoise or coral amulets, and you articulate or regurgitate really what other people are saying. Is that you realize that this is not, it's interesting because even from the space of the prophetic, for me, it's actually less about the revelation. It is about the responsibility, because you being able to articulate revelation means nothing. It just does. Can you take responsibility of that revelation?
Yeah.
It always goes down to that. It's great. You're a revelation. You have revelation about how people should live their life. Are you doing that? Great. You have a revelation that even, I don't know, you are a psychic or a healer. Can you own it? Here's how I say with that. Here's why I use very dramatic conversations, because I really feel like most people haven't sat into the revelation of what that means, or the responsibility of what it means. And I think, and you will understand this as a former, well, to me, it's like once a pastor, always a pastor. Once a minister, always a minister. It's just there. You might not go by the title, but it's like, we're pastoring. I think anyone that has a coven, like, you're a pastor. You're just a witchy pastor.
Exactly, witchy pastor.
Whatever, you're a pastor. When you have the title, specifically pastor, it's interesting, because people call me pastor in a lot of circles, there's an interesting thing that happens with the human experience. People call you when they're sick. If something happens in a society or in public, oh, you're a pastor, come here. Let me share my thoughts, my feelings. My child is in the hospital, let me call my pastor. You're required to have an answer. So even when Jesus says, I think it was Paul, always be ready to give an answer to those that ask. That's very much a pastoral spirit, which you start to learn is a strong responsibility, because when someone's in a hospital, and I've been a chaplain and I've been a pastor on this side of things and on the ministerial staff, I really understand this. When someone's daughter is laying on their deathbed and they call you to come to the hospital, I'm telling you, the revelation of you being a pastor and then the responsibility of the path immediately shift.
It does.
And so one of the things I've challenged a lot of people in the esoteric, magical, spiritual communities, like, I don't think you've hit that yet. Because when you go by healer and someone with stage 4 cancer calls you, or better yet, you have to go to the hospital, you're not going to be able to love and like that conversation. Not with the level of comfort, at least. You're not going to be able to use those terms. It's just not going to have the same weight. So what's going to happen is you're either going to stop doing your craft, or you're going to level up.
Yep.
And you're going to be extremely honest, which is to say, yes, I'm a healer. And there are times that people die. And there are times that I pray for them and nothing changed.
Yeah.
And I know I'm powerful. I know I'm great. And I've got to be honest to myself and say, apparently you weren't powerful enough because they still died. They still had the cancer. And you got to own that.
Yeah.
Because that's truthful. There's something in me that has not fully clicked in to say it still happened on your watch. No, I'm not running from that. I'm not going to use, this little cliche, comfortable, out that says, you know what? It's just happened. We're in a human experience. Death is a part of it. No. Is that true? Yes. But I'm not using that as a space to be comfortable and not level up and be more powerful. And that's what I talk about. Like, you need to own responsibility of that. Either Spirit is speaking to you and through you, or it's not.
Yeah.
Either Spirit is speaking to you and through you, and this is an opportunity for Spirit to work more expansively through you, or it's not. Do you want to do it, or do you not want to do it? Because I'm telling you, prophet and psychic and guru and master and high priest and mage is cute until you're called on in the time of need.
Yep.
And so that's what I tell people, like, I don't even have the luxury to entertain people that are criticizing or condemning, because I know what work is happening here. And the moment that I get off track is the very moment that somebody's going to need me, and they need me, and I need me of pure conscious, of elevated thought, of ascended wisdom, and really need to hone into it, because even if it's selfish, I don't need to be in a space where I'm questioning my power when somebody needs my power. So no, I can't entertain, oh, you think I'm a cult leader? Well, that's probably true. I don't know, I don't care. You think that I'm a heretic? Well, that's absolutely true, according to your philosophy. Honestly, I don't really care. To me, it's more entertaining at best. And even then, that's becoming less entertaining to me. And it's really more about, okay, I did this today. Someone said something, I immediately just unfriended them and kept on moving. It's like, okay, we're done with that. So I'd say this to everybody that's out there. It's like, listen, you have, if we look Old Testament, 70 years on this planet, you have a finite experience. I don't care if it's 20 years old, 50 years old, like J-Lo, or you live to be 100. You're going to have a realization that your time is running out. We all have to be super clear about that and super convicted by that, or you're going to wake up with the should, coulda, wouldas. I wish I could. This is just me kind of processing. And you're going to look back and it's going to be true. You could have done more and you should have done more. And you're going to hit your own personal judgment seat, and it will not be Christ. It will be your consciousness.
Yep.
And I have nothing else to say for you other than that is the path that you chose. You had opportunity after moment, after live stream and after podcast to remind you, wake it up. This too shall pass.
Yep.
Everybody's saying the exact same thing. No, you keep denying that, you keep ignoring that, and you're going to wake up in your hell experience saying, someone saved me, and there will be no one else to save you because you made choices.
That is the best way to actually describe that. For the last question, and I ask this question to all my guests. If you had one thing you want to be remembered by, what would it be? Your legacy.
If I had to be remembered for one thing, what the legacy is, you know what? I think I would like for people to say, God was with us and now we understand. My hope would be that people discern that now. But once it's said and done in this space of expression, once the page turns and goes to the next chapter, I want it to be such a deep rendering and turn of the veil of consciousness that people see like, did we crucify the Christ, or did we actually release the Christ? And I want it to be at that very strong, like, Emmanuel, God with us. And for those that did not discern that, for there to be a great sorrow that sits in and says, when he was here, we did not. And now that he is not, here we are. And for those that did discern and do discern, to be able to say, and yet he is coming again. In the moment, in the twinkling of an eye, when you least expect it, that voice is going to speak from the deep, and through revelation and through inspiration and through spirit say, behold, beloved, I am here. That's it. And then it will be a great, it is finished. And also, it is now beginning again.
I want to thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to have you added to the archive. It has been a privilege and an honor to actually share space with you. And I don't hope, I know that there are huge things for you and every life that you touch. So keep spreading that blessing.
Thank you so much, beloved. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for everyone that listened and participated and engaged, and everyone that also submitted questions. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. And welcome to the Witch's Haven.